Hi, I'm Sia, and much later tonight I'm going to be programming the whole of Rage for the evening. But in the meantime, here's a few little ditties to get your day started. Lots of love. See you later. This is You Gotta Be by Des'ree. Well, why wouldn't I choose this song? It's so fun to sing along to, and I feel like it's an everyone song. Everyone can get into it, and it's an everyone sing-along song. Yeah, this is like the one I guess I probably have the least to say about, but it's just such a good song, like a empowerment song. So this is Des'ree, You Gotta Be. This next song is Bedroom Eyes by Kate Ceberano. I'm a really huge fan. I think she's awesome. I used to be totally obsessed with her as a kid, and I went to her concerts all the time. Somehow my dad wangled me getting up on stage with her and playing the tambourine, and then after that I was at all her concerts. I'd be waiting at the stage door to say hello afterwards, and she remembered me every time, and her mum, who I think is her manager, would look out for me and come back and bring me back to say hello. And I think she was just an awesome kind of role model for how to treat a fan. So I love her. I think she's super talented, a great voice, and yeah, a big influence on me. This is Kate Ceberano of Bedroom Eyes. Hi, I'm Sia, and you're watching Rage. This is Loveful by the Cardigans. Just like awesome piece of pop music, beautifully written, beautifully sung. I really like her voice. I think it's just a good one for like having a little wiggly dance to. This is Loveful by the Cardigans. Hi, I'm still Sia. Thanks for tuning in for the last hour. That was nice of you. Please tune in again later for some more fun songies. And now to see you off is one of mine. Hi, my name's Sia. You might recognise me from episodes such as Travis and Rebecca's Wedding on Home and Away, or as the voice behind the final episode of 6 Feet Under, or the singer of some songs that were on Triple J sometimes, and other areas. I am going to be taking over Rage tonight with some real power ballads. I hope you'll enjoy it. Hi, so this is Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. I have this on my iPod party mix. It's one of my favourites to silly dance to, and it's a good one for miming too, along with. For some reason it makes me really happy, and it kind of reminds me of the Beatles. Is that sacrilege? It reminds me of the Beatles, and which makes me rather concerned because I've just realised I didn't actually put any Beatles songs in my favourite songs list for tonight. But anyway, this is Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. This next song is Wings of a Dove by Madness. I want this to be played at my funeral, if I ever die. It's just my favourite song in the world. It makes me feel bouncy and like dancing around and doing pogo. Which is my favourite pastime. I was talking to this little kid called Luella, who's like 10 the other day, and she was like, we'd just met, and she was like, do you have problems? And I was like, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, and she's like what? And I was like, oh, sometimes I just feel sad. And she was like, yeah, me too. And I was like, what do you do to help you feel better? And she was like, sometimes I bounce. Sometimes I just bounce up and down. Other times I like singing. Singing makes me feel better. And I was like, me too. And she was like, cool. Do you have like albums out? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, how many? And I said, oh, like probably, well, there's some before, like I did like 4 or something. She's like, cool. You should have like a 4-in-1. I was like, cool. She's like, do you have T-shirts out? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, cool. That's cool. Then later I was chopping a salad, really, really small, in what's called a brunoise. Really, really small pieces. And she was watching me, and then she came up and she'd been watching me for a long time. She came up and she was like, why you gotta be so perfect? I was like, this kid is 10. So anyway, this one's for Luella. This is a good one for bouncing to, babes. This is Respectable by Mel and Kim, which I did a choreographed dance to with my friend at North Adelaide Primary School during assembly, and she farted in the middle of it. This is Once in a Lifetime by the Talking Heads, and the reason I chose it is because I remember that I enjoyed it as a kid and as an adult. And recently, my girlfriend, who is called JD Sampson, who's in a band called La Tigra and a band called Men, she was DJing at some charity event that Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson and David Byrne had put on that was, I believe, some sort of AIDS benefit or anti-war benefit. One of the two. And I went to the show. And I was just sort of waiting around for her, and the crowd split apart at the end of the show, and I saw like David Byrne sort of like walking through, and he was making a beeline for me, and I kind of shat my pants immediately, and he said, "Hi, I'm David," and I was like, "Hi, I'm Sia," and he said, "I know," and I was like, and this is JD, and he was like, I know. And he said hello to both of us, and then he said, I just wanted to say I like your album. And I was like, thanks. And then he went, okay, bye. And he walked away. And of course, like, it was just one of those moments where like goosebumps went all over my body, my hair stood on end, and I did like a little wiggly happy dance. And me and JD were just like, did that just really happen, for like the next 3 days? Next up, we've got Men at Work, and Who Can It Be Now? I chose this because my Uncle Collie, he's my fake uncle, he's not my real uncle, is the lead singer of Men at Work, and he was an old family friend of my family's, and he, I think, shaped a lot of like my musical tastes. And I think now that I'm a grown-up and I can be kind of vaguely objective about what I do, I can hear real similarities in our tone when we're singing. And I went and stayed with him when I was like 11 in New York. I'd been in an accident when I was 3. My godfather struck a match and the end flew off and it went in my eye. And then my mum had a friend who'd just gotten out of law school who sued Redheads Matches, and I ended up with about $3,000 after we paid the lawyer. And when I was 11, Uncle Collie was over for dinner at our house in Adelaide, and he sort of off the cuff said, oh, you should come visit us one day in New York, him and his wife. And I was like, Mum, can I? Can I use the money from when I got the match in my eye? And she said yes. So I got on a plane by myself when I was 11, and I went to New York, and I stayed with Uncle Collie and Linda, and I have vague recollections. They had to work, so I remember I would stay in sometimes, and I would play like La Isla Bonita by Madonna really loudly, and do like choreographed dance until the neighbours complained. And then I stopped and I just watched like the television that they bought specially for me because they knew that TV is my parent. And so I had the wildest time. And another, this is the longest story in the universe, apologies. Another amazing thing happened is that the last day I was in New York, he said, where do you want to go for dinner? It's your last day, where do you want to go? And I said, the place with the lights. And that place happened to be Tavern on the Green, which is a restaurant in Central Park that has all of these beautiful trees covered in fairy lights. It's really magical. We went there, and as we were eating dinner, someone walked behind my chair. I felt a whoosh, and Uncle Collie said, "You know who just walked behind you?" And I snapped around, and it was Stevie Wonder. And he sang happy birthday to his daughter at the table, like 2 tables away from us. And then as he was walking back, because I was freaking out, because it was when I Just Called to Say I Love You was a big hit, and it was one of my favourite hits. And so he tapped someone on the shoulder as they were walking past the chair, and he was like, "Hey, we've got a little like Australian girl here that would really like to meet Stevie." And that turned out to be Stevie Wonder's brother. And he was like, "Hey, you the guy with the Vegemite sandwich?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I went up and I met him, and Stevie Wonder said to me, "Hey, have you got any Vegemite?" And I said, "No, but if you want some, you could give me your address and I could send it to you." And he said, "That's cool, I'll get some from Olivia Newton-John's shop." And I said, "Okay." And then he said, "I hope you're happy and successful in everything you do." And I said, "Thanks." And then we went back to dinner. So anyway, other things, amazing things happened, like Uncle Collie went to the Grammys and I sat in the limousine. Like, this is still, I'm like 11 or 12 or something, and I sat in the limousine, like, drinking orange juice that I was pouring from the side of the car and watching the Grammys on the little television. And I think that that's probably what ruined me and why I do what I do now, because I can remember sitting in that fucking car, that big limo, thinking, 11, thinking, yeah, this seems like a pretty good job. Like, Uncle Collie's got a pretty good job. This is like a pretty good job. And of course I had no idea what it entailed, but I think that that's probably what inspired me to be who I am. So this is Men at Work. This is Constant Craving by K.D. Lang, who is one of my top 5 voices in the universe. I think she's amazing. And I'm embarrassed because I saw her about 3 weeks ago in a Los Angeles cafe, and like, I became incredibly over-adrenalised and I wanted to say hello, but I didn't. And I let her walk away without saying hello, I'm a huge fan, because I could feel like my energy becoming totally fragmented, and I knew that I was going to give her like freaky vibes. So, but I'm still disappointed. I really would have liked to have been able to say, I love you. Anyway, this is Constant Craving by K.D. Lang.